Welcome to CCTV America. I'm Elaine Reyes. We begin with developing news out of Thailand, where the army has declared martial law. CCTV's Tony Cheng joins us live with more. Tony.
Thanks very much. Yes, that announcement came at 3 a.m. this morning. Very unexpected. The army had said a couple of days ago they were concerned, as they have been throughout these 7 months of protest, about the situation regarding law and order in the country, and yet they said they weren't at this stage going to intervene. They've been very reluctant, seemingly, to intervene so far, and then suddenly we saw at 3 a.m. this announcement from the Army Commander, General Prayut, that military law was going to be imposed. It is effectively a military coup. We already have military all around the city of Bangkok. They've been in place for some months now, since the state of emergency was announced. Because they say the protesters were under threat. They said they wanted to maintain law and order. We've also seen this morning soldiers in the major TV stations. Channel 3, the most watched of the Thai public-to-air broadcasters, now has soldiers sitting in its control room. They said on air that they now have to pass everything under the eyes of those soldiers to make sure that it can be passed for air. So clearly censorship being imposed. An announcement from the government, a security advisor to the caretaker acting Prime Minister, saying that as far as they knew, they were still in control. The army also confirming that. That said, martial law now allows the army to do effectively whatever they want. They clearly have been frustrated by the political stalemate we got to in the last few months, and they now have absolute control.
Tony, I know the day is just beginning there. What is a likely reaction from people on the street? Do you think this announcement will bring some calm to Bangkok, or do you think this will bring fear?
I think this will ultimately make people quite nervous. There was already calm effectively in Bangkok. We'd seen these protests going on for 7 months, but they'd actually reached a stage where the protesters were very much contained in one site around Government House. They were pretty much using Government House as their own facility, coming and going as they wished, but they were well contained within it. There were army emplacements around the city, as I stated. The police have been relatively ineffective, but there hasn't been a considerable threat to them. I think the biggest concern for the army has been the fact that they've been running out of ground. The Constitution, which is being exhausted pretty much to the point where we now have an acting caretaker Prime Minister, who, according to constitutional laws, does have the legal ability to call a new constitution. Well, that was being questioned by the Election Commission. They seem to be being supported by the army. We also have the Senate talking about imposing an unelected Prime Minister. That, again, seems to be something that the army would like to see rather than going to elections. And I think, but we had reached the stage where the Constitution could no longer support any of those conclusions, so they have had to impose martial law. It's effectively what they've done. I think we'll have to see how they square that with the acting government, if the acting government is allowed to remain in place. And I think we'll have to see the reaction of people on the streets. We have 20,000 red shirt protesters who've been waiting on the edges of Bangkok for the last week. They said they would only come in to the capital if they felt democracy is under threat. Well, it clearly is now. We understand their camp has been surrounded by military vehicles. No one is being allowed in or out, so they're clearly keen to contain that threat as quickly as we can. But we would also imagine, as we've seen in the past, those red shirts will be supported by people from the north and the northeast of Thailand. We know they have the numbers, so they will clearly be very unhappy about this. Out on the streets, key intersections of Bangkok have been closed down. There are army vehicles very close to where I'm speaking to you from now, controlling the traffic. So they have imposed control, and this is now effectively a military coup.
All right, CCTV's Tony Cheng live from Bangkok, where again the army has declared martial law.